ever see his mom? Did you ever? She wouldn't do that. No mother in their right mind would do that. Starting in the NAACP chapter in Irving. I said, what?
Yo, what's up? I am Isaac, chair of STI 740.
I'm Isaiah Cherry, the host of the entertainment section of STI 740.
What we're going to talk about today is a rather serious subject.
Serious.
Patricia Allen, a lady who lost 3 of her kids not too long ago in a drowning accident. And what we just want to say is, it's amazing how all this bad stuff's coming out. She's got arrested, but in the past month, there's been 23 cases around the Dallas and Fort Worth area where kids have drowned, but I don't hear any of them getting arrested.
Me either. And I also want to talk about how media is just throwing that out there like she's just something bad. Like, if your 3 children drown, what would you do? Would you go to prison just because your 3 children drowned? How would that make you feel? I mean, you already lost your children. Come on now, think about it. Isn't that enough? That's enough pain already. I know if I had children, well, you know what? I can't really say it because I don't know how that would really feel, but come on now. You guys got to feel the sorrow that she's going through. Now she got her other 2 children that's in CPS. Come on now. Don't you think that's enough pain already for her? She's already going through a lot. And then now she got to fight this case just so she can save her own life. Come on now. Let's be serious. Media is just throwing her out there like she's just something bad. That's not right.
It's just amazing how all you guys say, oh, I'm a Christian, I forgive and forget now. But then again, it's mostly black people, African Americans, who's bashing her. I mean, all you guys talk about being Christians and Jesus will forgive you. Okay, if Jesus is gonna forgive her, why won't you? It's just a lot of stuff you guys do don't make sense. We are the only race who's not working together in Las Vegas. Why do you think Asians have a whole part of a town called Chinatown that's named for them? Because they work together. But yet, when I walk around, I don't see that many black-owned businesses. I only see here and there, but besides that, it's mostly Asians, Hispanics, and Caucasian. So it just doesn't make sense to me when you guys say, yeah, we all go to church. Yeah, you go to church, but if you ain't doing nothing outside of that, you ain't doing nothing. You guys always say, yeah, I'm a true Christian. You know, you can know the Bible front and back, but you're not doing nothing that's in the Bible. So what are you guys talking about?
And like I just said, she lost 3 of them to drowning. Media is posing her like she's the bad apple out of the bunch. Come on now. She lost 3 children. Don't you think that's enough pain for her already? Why should she be indicted, as I would say, just for something that happened accidentally? I don't see any other parents being charged. Come on now. Let's make this more real. Stop acting so fake. I mean, media is... every time you look at media, every time you go to the news, you don't ever see anything positive. Only thing I see positive on media is happy birthdays. I don't ever see anything about this new event that's coming up. I don't ever see anything coming on about new schools opening or anything like that. I just see people being killed, people killing each other, people robbing stores, and all the other gang stuff. But media is just so bad now. It's just like something that people watch just for the interest. People don't ever watch anything good for interest. That's why we have STI 740 here. We're replacing that negative media with positive media. Come on, you guys. Let's be more serious about this. She already lost 3 children. What more can you do to a woman like this?
And it also goes to say, I mean, like, it's funny how African Americans claim to be a Christian, full-blown Christian, but yet again, it looks in the Bible and Jesus says he forgives and forgets. But yet, I hear the African American that's bashing her. I mean, y'all guys always talking about, she was negligent. I mean, she had 3 kids in a pool and another one, and you know how little kids are. You have to keep your eyes on them at all times. So she turned around. She was taking care of one. How was she supposed to know that the other kids were drowning? It just doesn't make sense to me. And then you guys are always talking about this, that, cat and hat, whatever. But you guys are always saying God does this. He's the perfect guy that you should strive to be. So it just doesn't make sense to me.
And what they're saying, I know if I went swimming and I wasn't, let's say, I wasn't tall enough to go inside a bigger pool, I would still want to learn because that's how you learn to swim. So it's still not the mom's fault. So CPS taking her other 2 children just because 3 of them died for swimming, that's not right. None of that is right. And we got to go back to the Bill of Rights. A mom to prison after she already lost 3 children. There is nothing at all right about that. CPS is wrong for that. They know what they're doing. I can't even say much about it.
You guys are acting like she pushed her kids in the pool. No, she ain't do that. And thing is, they said they had a witness that said she was on the phone. Okay, so they telling me she's on the phone. You watching her on the phone, but you don't see her kids drowning? Come on, dog. Y'all just too easy to believe this stuff. And then, y'all know the media reports nothing but bad news. They say, today's a good day, but then they list reasons why it's not. So, for you guys to just sit up there and just act so oblivious to what's really going on, it's crazy.
Okay, today we're here with Anthony Bond, and we're here at the Southwest Center Mall, and the purpose of our conversation will be concerning Miss Patricia Allen. And before we talk about Patricia Allen, I just want to say personally, I just met this brother, just recently met him, and in that time, just a response that I've heard from other individuals and the people that know him, the humility that this brother has, because he doesn't want to accept anything for self. Everything is about giving. Everything is about what can I do for the community? What can I do to help these individuals who we know are suffering? When you have an individual of that sort, and you have them, and you know that their heart is compassionate of that sort, you want to keep those individuals close to you. Unfortunately, as a community, we don't have that many individuals in our lives like a brother like Tony. Before we go and talk about Miss Patricia Allen, let me ask you a question. Who is Tony Bond?
I'm a poor little church, a country boy that was raised in the church all my life from a tiny little place in Kingsport, Tennessee. I used to be ashamed to tell people that I grew up in the country. I'm 61 years old now. I've been through a lot of hurt, grief, and pain. I've seen a lot in my life. I've worked in hospitals. I'm a former officer in the Navy. I've worked in hospital laboratories for over 25 years. I've seen a lot of dead. I've seen a lot of sorrow. And I saw him on December the 20th, 2007. I saw my brother killed. Instantly. In front of me.
We don't want the Walmart to the shopping cart. Every Walmart, every shopping cart over there has.
I'll never be the same.
And it cannot be the parking lot. It costs $432 for every shopping cart in that Walmart.
Forgot left me here for some reason.
They design what you want, but if you sit up here and say, well, that's how Walmart.
The only thing I can
works.
that makes sense to me is that God left me here to help with
everything. We designed that Walmart.
and to try to lead people to the knowledge that God so loved the world that He sent His only begotten Son to live and to show us an example of how we should live and treat each other. But not only that, He allowed His Son to suffer unmercifully for our sakes and die and go down into the pit of hell and come up out of there and live again to give us hope. So I'm a firm believer in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because I wouldn't be here if I didn't. I would be nothing. I would have shot myself in the head by now. Because every day I see my brother's heads.
I get on the elevator, somebody say, hey, Mr. Member, how you all right? Oh, Lord. I'm not like that. I'm not like that. My thing is, those are organized.
I had my brother.
You can't get up, and I'm not going to advise, you can't get up and leave the house at 8 and get up at 8.
That's who I am.
Losing my older brother in the way that my brother was tragically killed with black crime, and without any cause has happened, and how that has affected my life from that time to present. I understand the pain, and it's funny because I always share with people, and even my mom and my youngest brother, that I wanted it to be me, because I felt like he had something to prove and I did not. So to see that happening and to be able to not understand it or the purpose, it takes on a whole nother meaning. I want to thank you for sharing that with us. How did you become this public figure? I mean, and the thing about it is he's quiet with it, but very powerful. But he doesn't receive it or accept it as such. How did you become this public figure where people respect you and they listen to you and they know that when Anthony Bond is around, he's fighting for the people in the community?
Because on July 28th, 1994, I was killing myself. Both my parents were alcoholics, and I was drinking myself to death. I was working 2 40-hour jobs, and when I was off, I was drinking. I was off the chain. And one day, it just got overwhelming, and I got down on my knees, and I prayed to God. I said, God, I'll make you a promise. If you will help me be able to control this urge of drinking myself to death, I'll give you the rest of my life. That was in June of 1994. After that, I checked myself into a rehab facility. Got out there, and the night that I got out of the rehab facility, I stayed in there for 6 weeks. I had one of the most vivid dreams I've ever had in my life. And it woke me up, it startled me, because it was so real. It was like I had seen the movie Mississippi Burning, Byron David Beckwith, the redneck white man that lurched behind the bushes with the rifle and shot McGregor because he was working for the NAACP down in Mississippi, registering people to vote back on June 12, 1963. I was there. God put me right beside Byron David Beckwith. But it was like I was sitting beside him, just like you. And I saw him pull the trigger, and I saw the blood brush from Medgar Everett's chest, and then I saw his wife run out there to the carport, and the kids run out there, and the blood was going everywhere, and that's when I woke up. I woke up, I was in a cold sweat, scared me to death. The most vivid dream I've ever had in my life. I got down on my knees, crying, sweating, and I cried out to God. I said, God, what does this dream mean? It's the only time I've ever heard this. People think I'm crazy, but this has been documented all over the place because I've told this story over and over again, and it never changes, it never will, because it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I heard a tiny voice say, start an NAACP chapter in Irving. I said, what? Start an NAACP chapter in Irving? I've been working 2 jobs, man. I ain't got no time to start no NAACP chapter in Irving. I didn't even know whether there's an NAACP chapter in Irving. I'd only been in Irving 6 years in my whole life. In those 6 years, I was working on it. So at that time, nobody never knew me. But I said, okay, Lord, if that's what you want me to do. To make a long story short, the next morning, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I went to the Yellow Pages, because I didn't even know whether there was an NAACP chapter in it, whether there was one in Irving. So I went to the Yellow Pages, I'll never forget it. And the Southwest Regional Office of NAACP was in Dallas at that time. It's in Houston now. And I got the phone number. And they said they opened at 9 o'clock. So at 9 o'clock I was waiting. I hadn't been back to sleep, but at 9 o'clock I was waiting. At 9 o'clock I called, nobody answered. 9:01 I called, nobody answered. 9:02 nobody answered. 9:03 finally. Shannon Reeves was the Southwest Regional Director at that time. He's now the president of the Oakland, California NAACP. I'll never forget what he said when he answered that phone. I said, this is Anthony Bond, I'm calling from Irving. And I just want to know, is there an NAACP branch or chapter here in Irving? You know what that man told me?
What did he say?
He said, man, I still got all my satchels and my books still in my hands. I just ran over because I just opened the office and nobody's here yet. And I just answered the phone because it kept ringing. And he said, I can't believe this is the first call I'm receiving this morning. I said, why? He said, because we had our monthly meeting last night, and the last item on the agenda was the need for an NAACP branch in Irving. I knew it was God. I knew it was God's voice talking to me. And I did what he said. And I started with a lot of, you got to get 100 people to join to start a branch. I did it with the help of some of the churches and some of the people in the community. I did it. And they elected me president because I'd done all the work. And they elected me president. I was the president of the NAACP in Irving from 1994 to 2000. Wow. And in that time, it was amazing. I could talk to you for days, man, about how God
That means there's going to be many more interviews coming.
How God has used that dream to bring millions of dollars into Irving to help poor people. But he used tiny little me. See, we're just vessels. I tell everybody, I'm nothing. Without God, I'm nothing. But with God, we can do something. I can too.
So, what are some of the things that you've done for the community?
Well, the first thing that got me a lot of notoriety is right after I formed the branch, all the black people over in Bear Creek. If anybody knows Irving, Bear Creek is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, black community in the whole state of Texas. And the black people came to me and told me one of the most remarkable things I found out is that there were some blacks over there in Irving in '94 that were still afraid to go in downtown Irving after sundown. And this is 1994. And then they started telling me about some of the needs of the black people in the community. And it was, I started going and visiting some of the elderly people and they were living in houses that you wouldn't keep a dog in. One of the first black women, I walked into her house, and I walked into her house, man, I took one step and stepped all the way down to stepped through her floor all the way down to the ground.
This was homes that's in Bear Creek.
In Bear Creek and Irving. And Irving is one of the richest cities in America.
But for those who do not know the history as far as Irving, why were they still afraid to go to the city of Irving?
Downtown. Because in downtowns all across this country, it was an unspoken rule that if they catch a black man or a black woman in downtown after Sunday, you'll get the stew beat out of you, if not killed.
From king to king. Do you know what that means? When the sun rises, you got to be there sitting there waiting. When the sun goes down, you got to be at the barn.
Or worse, hung or tarred and feathered and all kinds of stuff. See, Irving is still a redneck city in 2015. See, it's one, and so you asked me what I did and to get everybody to know me. I started rating H-E-L-L, and I found out that Irving was one of only 5 cities. You know how many cities there are in America? See, this is why God gave me that dream. Found out that Irving was one of only 5 cities in the entire nation that was designated by our federal government as an entitlement city. That means you've got enough poor people in your city for the federal government to give you community block grants. So many millions every year, so you can help those poor people lift themselves up out of poverty. The city of Irving was one of they were an entitlement city. They met all the criteria, but they refused to take the money for 25 years. They turned down over $80 million that they knew would have to go to Bear Creek. And Bear Creek was the lowest socioeconomic census tract in the whole city of Irving. So when you get the CDBG money, based on the census tract and the income within those census tracts, you have to give that money to them first. And we had a city councilwoman on there by the name of Jackie Townsend. She's the only African American up until 6 years ago that ever served. Well, I take it back, up until about 8 years ago to ever serve on the Irving City Council. She was on there from 1978 to 1995.
When I decided that I was going to give it a shot, that being black and being a woman was definitely against me. So I knew that. So I looked for, if anybody slammed a door in my face, I would accept that and just go on to the next door. So it really didn't happen that way, though. I had a real good reception. That's what made me run the second time after I lost the first. When I first moved here in 1949, it was February in the wintertime, and the roads were, just muddy. And you had stumps in the roads, it was just dirt roads. And people had to park, those few that had cars, had to park your car up on the main road or walk down to your house, It was that kind of a place.
The first thing I did is as president of Irving NAACP, I filed a fair housing complaint against the city of Irving on behalf of the poor people of Bear Creek. Because I knew that what they had done is a crime. And if I ever get enough money to hire me some investigative attorneys, we're going to slap one of the biggest class action suits on the city of Irving that's ever been brought.
Now, how was they able to get away with that for so long?
Because they used Jackie Townsend, the African American city councilwoman, to be their spokesperson to the federal government. A guy came down that had retired from HUD, cried in my arms like a baby. He was an assistant director of HUD that had been coming down there and begging Jackie Townsend to force the city of Irving, tell the truth, that these people are deliberately not taking this money because they don't want to help these black people. At the same time they were denying the money, they gentrified Bear Creek. When I came to Bear Creek, found out about this, there was over 1,000 black families there. Guess how many are there right now? Less than 150. What they did was, they knew that the city of Irving was landlocked. And if you go to Bear Creek, it's like living in the country, but you're in the middle of one of the richest cities in America. Irving is one of the richest cities per capita tax base in the whole country. Our tax base over in Irving right now is nearly $20 billion a year because of all those Fortune 500 companies there. See, these white people knew that. The leaders knew that. They knew dark was coming. Straight through Bear Creek, one of the main transit stations. The Bear Creek South Irving Transit Station is right there in the heart of Bear Creek. See? And a lot of white people and black people on my NAACP executive committee, when I filed that complaint, every one of them quit. Half my executive committee quit. I didn't give a damn whether they quit or not, because I knew I was on a mission given to me by God. And it's been proven out. And guess what? I went to all the banks, and we raised, I raised, with the help of a lot of other banks, we raised somewhere close to $250,000.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
And we built 3 houses. We gave them away to the poorest and the most downtrodden and the most substandard African American people that was living there. 3 elderly black women. You wouldn't keep a dog in there. And praise God, God used tiny little bitty me, sent me a dream. It ain't about me, it's about God. God works through us, man. And we raised that money. I went to all these banks, and I found out Robert Petrie over in South Dallas told me about the Community Reinvestment Act. I went and I slapped it on them. I said, y'all have to give money back to the poor people in y'all community. All these black people been depositing money in y'all's banks all this time, and y'all just been giving the money to 2 people. Jackie Townsend, the city councilwoman, she would have a bicycle. She would give bicycles away 1 time a year over in Bear Creek to keep the black people situated. And then the other guy was Joe Shepherd, the pastor of the largest black Baptist church out there, Ben Worth Baptist Church. So they were using the black people, namely these 2 leaders, to say these black people are fine. They don't mean nothing. But and that's how I got known, because I got it all in the newspapers, all everywhere I could scream and holler. I screamed and hollered that what the city of Irving did to these people was wrong. It's one of the biggest crimes and conspiracies on the part of the city and city council people I've ever seen in my life. And guess what? The minute that these black people was in danger of losing their land, guess who went and scooped it up? Former city council people. The people that took the land from the black people in Bear Creek, every one of them had served on the city council. At the same time, they were over here refusing to give them the federal money that would help them keep the land. Guess what? They was scooping up the land for pennies on the dollar. There's a story out there in Bear Creek. I'll never forget it to the day I die. One city councilman, he came over and he knew this old black man owned a big parcel of land where the West Park Recreation Center sits right now. City of Irving, West Park Recreation Center. They knew he had a penchant for drinking. This is the way the story goes. Came over there one Friday night with a whole big half-gallon of gin. Got the man so drunk and out of his mind, the next morning he had done sold 13 acres of land for 10 crisp, brand new $100 bills. That land is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars today. So I got death threats. When I filed that fair housing complaint against the city of Irving, and I got all this in the media, I got death threats. All that's been documented. I had to have the FBI and the Irving Police Department come over and tap my phone. The death threats came from black people. I'll never forget the first call I got. I can tell you verbatim what it said. He said, "You done brought your short black ass into Irving," and a black woman. She said, "Nigga, you better watch your back, because we're gonna run your ass out on a light rail." Scared the stew out of me. I called the FBI and I told they came over my house, tapped my phone for a few months.
So why do you think it was African Americans? I mean, why would they do it?
Because they were complicit with the city.
Gotcha.
So, Jackie Townsell, who was, they named the school after her. Townsell Elementary over there. People don't like me saying this, but I don't care whether they don't like it or not. They use Jackie like a damn drum.
How was this lost in history?
There is no recorded history written about Bear Creek right now. You know, the other thing I did that made a lot of people find out about me is, well, after we built those houses and gave them away 3, now that's the happiest day of my life. When we gave those keys to those 3 elderly people, and we told them, you don't have to pay a dime. They didn't have to pay a dime. They just had to sign a form, and I did it. I founded the Bear Creek Development Corporation in the process. The Bear Creek Community Development Corporation. So we ran all that money that I got contributed to the bank through the Bear Creek Development Corporation. And so through the Development Corporation, we had to make them sign a pledge that they wouldn't sell the house within 5 years. So every year that they didn't sell it up to 5 years, you know, 1/20th of the price that we paid for them, about $80,000 was the price that we paid for each one of those houses. It would go away. So if they lived in the house for 5 years, it would be theirs. They wouldn't have to pay a penny. So that was back in 1998 that we built the same house. So of course, you know, it's their family, and they own them houses free and clear now. But the other thing that made a lot of people know me is when I was doing this, and the black people over in Bear Creek, they felt like they could trust me. They told me about an old slave cemetery over in Irving that was on a 130-acre farm owned by former Congressman Jim Collins. And the Collins family had caretakers over there that had denied the black people access to their cemetery for over 40 years. Nobody had visited that cemetery.
What do you mean they denied?
They wouldn't let them on the property.
Is that
That property used to be a slave plantation.
He was, that's right.
He bought it. The current owner was Jim Collins, and bought it around 1944. They said they stopped. The last burial took place over there around 1944, but for a while they let people come across the property. And, it's a beautiful piece of property. There's a big fishing pond in there, bass in there, big as me, Causeway. And then they turned it into this real posh alcohol rehab facility. That's what it was for most of the time. But they said around 1960, for some reason, they wouldn't let the black people come on there and even go to the cemetery to visit their loved ones. So somebody told me about that. So I formed the chapter in '94. So they didn't tell me this till like the next year, June of '95. This is all documented in the Dallas Morning News. They did a big article about it. On June 10, 1995, I went over there to that property. I knocked on this big gate. You got to go through the gate. You got to go to the caretaker's house. They used to have, you know, big cabins around there where people stayed around the lake, an amphitheater. They had horses that they kept back in there. You know, it's 130 acres. Pecan orchards. When I first saw it, beautiful horses roaming around there. Cattle all over the place. I knocked on the caretaker's door. I'll never forget, a little Hispanic boy by the name of Juan. He was 10. Came to the door and I said, I'm Anthony Vaughn of the Irving NAACP, and these black people over in Irving tell me there's a cemetery on here for black people, a slave cemetery. And I said to the little boy, I said, is your dad home? He said, no, he's out on the property cutting grass. I said, do you know if there's a cemetery? That little boy's eyes lit up like big saucers. He said, oh yeah. He said, I could take it. The place was so big he had to put me on the back of a golf cart and took me up there and showed me that cemetery. And man, it looked like the Amazon forest. The fence around it had been broken down. The cattle had shit all over the graves, knocked down a lot of the markers. When I walked into it for the first time, I tell you, I got down on my knees, I cried like a kid. And I felt the spirit of those people cry out to me. And you know what they told me? I heard them saying, Anthony, please, don't let our final resting place continue to be desecrated like that. I went on a mission. I found an 88-year-old white lady that helped the Freedman Cemetery down there in downtown Dallas. So everybody calls her the cemetery lady. Her name is Frances Jane. I told her about the cemetery. I brought her out there. She and I, for the next 5 years, worked. I spent days, weeks down at the Dallas County Deed Office. We traced that land from 1845 all the way to 1995. We found every deed. It took us about 6 months. We was down there. I was down there. She was down there for the first couple months with me, but it took me about 6 months. She showed me how to research it and do it, and all the people down at the Dallas County Deed Office, they were great to me. They knew what we were doing. To make a long story short, we got that place designated as a historical landmark in the state of Texas. And it got a lot, you know, after I did those two things, and the city of Irving was forced to, you know, oh, by the way, the HUD
You said after you did those two things, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, but you know, I had a lot of good people helping me too. But I was, you know, God used me to be the tip of His spirit. I was just the tip of the spirit. You know, you gotta have a lot on the other side of the tip. I was just the tip. I had a lot of people helping me. But in 1999, let me tell you this one thing, because this is very important. I asked the city of Irving, we was going to settle, because I knew we had them. They didn't have the legs standing. So, because they was one of only 5 cities in the entire nation that didn't take the money. And they had these poor people over here living like dogs. So there was no defense. They did it. So they were guilty. So they asked me, well, Mr. Baum, what do you want? So I went back to our convenience. I said, and they said, well, we'll settle for $2 million. Give us the $2 million, we'll put it into the development corporation, and we'll use it, and we'll have the people who are going to got back taxes, and, you know, fix up their houses and build some houses, and we'll take it. Well, no, the city of Irving, and then we talked to our attorneys, and we went down to, because we didn't have no money, so we went down here. At that time, the North Texas Legal Defense people was down here on Commerce Street. They said, no, Mr. Bonds, they said, no, we don't think that's a good idea. They said, you ought to go ahead and follow through on it. Because you might be, the city of Irving is liable. So we didn't take the settlement. So then the city of Irving came back and said, well, I tell you what. They said, if you will settle with us and not take us to court, we will agree to start receiving the money, the CDBG money every year, and we will promise that for the first few years, the majority of the money that we receive will go to help the black people in that group. So we settled with them, and they did. And for the first 4 or 5 years, from 1999 to about 2003, the Bear Creek Development Corporation probably received somewhere around $15 million. And they probably built, with that money, probably about 70 houses and rehabbed, I don't know how many houses. Wow. So after that, you know, those 2 things, that's how people around the area got to know me.
Where'd you get this passion?
My ancestors in Tennessee, I got right here in my pocket the papers of my great-great-grandmother. This is just a photo-stat copy of it. It's from this was done in 1833. It says here, bargained, sold, and delivered to my daughter, Katie Bond, a Negro girl named Dolly, about 15 years of age. for the sum of $300. They sold my great-great-grandmother like she was a cow, a dog, you'd buy a horse or a cat in 1833. My family is the oldest black family in all of East Tennessee. Our family cemetery is a historical landmark in the state of Tennessee. So you see, Bernard, God put this in me before I was born. The Bible says that God knew you before you were even formed in your mama's womb. See, everything I do now, if I feel like God's calling me to do it, I do it with all my heart. I live my life. See, after seeing my brother die, I ask God every day, why did you leave me here? I don't really want to be here. To be honest with you, if God would call me home right now, it would be fine with me. I got so much pain. I see my brother die in front of me every day. But I know God has something for me to do. That's why I'm here helping Patricia. Because I don't want her to feel alone like I felt all these years. I don't want her to feel like God has left her alone and her kids are gone and she's just down here all by herself. It's not true. It's just like Martin Luther King said to us in his sermon, A Knock at Midnight. He says that God has promised to never leave us alone. Never. I believe it. It's all in my heart. God promised. He said, no, never alone. And that's what I want Patricia Allen to know. She lost her 3 precious children, but she's not alone. And I keep telling her if she keeps her hand in God's hand, she will see August, Anthony, and Trishad again. If she does God's will, follows His word, and continues to be a loving and caring mother and person like she is, she will be with them again forever. I know that. It's not just something I believe. I know it. And I know what God is doing for me. I don't have the strength to do this. I tell you what. It hurts so bad. There's so much I don't understand about that accident. You know, we weren't doing nothing, just driving down the road and then all of a sudden, bam! My brother's gone. Sitting beside me like you. And bam, he's gone. And I'm still here. I feel guilty. Keeps me alive. It gives me a purpose. When I know I'm doing God's will, man, it makes me happy. To be honest with you, I'm not happy to be alive. I'm thankful to be alive. Because my brother died. And I live. I don't want Patricia to hurt like I'm hurting. She will. She is. But if we can help her pain, she's always going to have the pain. That's why I told her in the memorial service, she's going to have a lot of dark days, man. But God's going to be there in the darkness. It's the only thing I can say.
And for those who do not know about Miss Patricia Allen, tell us, who is Patricia Allen?
I've only known Patricia Allen for 2 weeks of my whole life. I'm 61 years old. She's a grieving black mother who just happens to be 31 years old today, as I sit here and talk to you. She's ashamed to be active at her birthday. Because on June 24th, she took 5 of her children to a swimming pool in Irving, Texas. And for those who don't know, her little boy, King, he's 3 years old. And King is, he's almost 4, but he's not talking yet. And he's not as developed as a normal. I don't know what it is, and that's not my place to say. But he's not as developed as other children are. So he doesn't speak. He understands what you're telling. It's almost, to me, I've been around autistic children, and it's almost like he may have a touch of that. I don't know. I can't diagnose him. But I'm saying that to say you can't let him out of your hand. You know, like if we had him here in this room, you would have to be near him all the time because he'd be flirting around everything. You know, not unlike most 4 years old, but different, because he would go and he would take things off and throw them down. You know, just it's I don't know how to describe it, but if you put him in like Patricia did and took her other 4 kids with her to the swimming pool, this is the way Patricia described it to me. You've got to keep her head on that little boy the whole time. So you can't let him go, not even walk. He's tall enough to walk in 3 feet, but you couldn't let him go because he'd be putting his head underwater. Next thing you know, he'd be drowned. So what she was saying is she had Genesis and King and August and Rashawn and Anthony were behind her. And you know, she said they could doggy paddle a little bit. They weren't accomplished swimmers, but they could doggy paddle. So she wasn't really too concerned about them. And they were in 3 feet of water. And so she was playing with King and Genesis, and her back was to them. And then, you know, she was playing for a little while, and she turned around, and all 3 of her kids were under the water. And you know the rest of the story, they all drowned. August, they pronounced her dead on the spot. Trishawn, who was 11, Anthony, who was 11. Trishawn was 9, and August was 10, going on 11. They all 3 drowned. On June the 24th. I think Trishawn and Anthony lived for a couple of days in the ICU unit at Children's Hospital. Trishawn lived long enough for Patricia to sign the papers to donate his heart. So she donated his heart to save another child's life.
She donated the heart.
Donated the heart of Trishawn.
I think most people that was watching, we didn't hear that on media reports that she actually donated the heart.
Patricia is so overwhelmed that, you know, and nobody has really tried to get to know Patricia in the public. You know, that's what I tell everybody. I said, this condemning her, I said, have you ever met her? It reminds me of the movie Malcolm X, when Billy D. Williams at the end of it said, did you ever talk to Malcolm? Did you ever see his smile? Did you ever really get to know him? It reminds me of what the media and all these people who are condemning Patricia have done. Have they ever seen her? Have they ever been in her presence? Have they ever talked to her? Have they ever seen her with her 2 surviving children? Have they ever had an opportunity to try to fill her heart? Well, I have. And I believe with everything in me that this is a loving and caring and sweet mother who is, wouldn't you be devastated? I'm a grandparent. I'm a parent. I couldn't even imagine. You know, I've been telling you, you see the pain in me from losing a brother. He was my oldest brother. He was 57. I was able to live with him all my life for 57 years. These were three beautiful, intelligent children that didn't even get a chance to grow up. And this mother has had her whole being ripped out. And now they're charging her with a crime that somehow or another she's guilty for taking her kids swimming. I tell you what, Menard, there's nothing in me that has ever questioned after I met Patricia. Now before, yeah, I had a few questions. But after I met her and talked to her and got to know her, there's not a question that I have about whether or not this mama had any bad inclinations, intentions, or anything to believe that she would take them to a pool knowing that they was going to drown. She wouldn't do that. No mother in their right mind would do that. This is a tragic mistake. A tragic accident. God is part of God's plan. I don't understand. I don't understand. I keep asking God, why did you let that be the last time I talked to my brother? The last time I saw my brother? I ain't got no answers. Ain't nobody on earth been able to provide me one. And all these people that's condemning Patricia, I asked them, I turned the question around. Do you know what God had planned for these three kids that day? Do you know why these kids drowned? No, and nobody can answer that question.
Let me ask you a question. Because everything that you've been doing over the years for the city of Irving, being in the NAACP, you've seen so much. You spoke about earlier about it was the African Americans who was actually giving you death threats. Over these years, just your opinion, why have we as African Americans lost our compassion? And why do we so quickly jump on the bandwagon of what media portrays to us when we know that media is negative?
That's a very easy question for me to answer. And I learned this a long time ago at the University of Tennessee when I started studying black. I had a minor in black history. And I read a book, and I would recommend every black person that can read to read this book. It's called Pedagogy, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And the whole thesis of the book is that when you have a group of people that have been oppressed for so long, when you have a group of people like black people here in this country that have been oppressed for so long, sooner or later, they take on the worst characteristics of their oppressor. And if you were to gauge where we are as a black community here, you know, all the envy, all the jealousy, all the lying, all the deceit, all the fraud, all of the selfishness, all the evilness, all the hate that we see in white people, we have taken on their worst characteristics. And who is controlling the media in this country? It's white people, for the most part. Now you got BET, they call it the Black Entertainment Network. Boy, I tell you, if you went back into the boardrooms and you look back into the donor rooms where they getting their money, they still getting a lot of money from white people. This is a white country. This is not an African American country. This is not a melting pot. It's the deception. The white man is still running this country. And the white man, well, the majority of them, I wouldn't say all of them, but the majority of them are still eat up with that white superiority complex. And they see themselves way up here and black people down here. And so when you say pedagogy of the oppressed, black people have, a lot of black people, they take on that same mentality as white man. And they think they better than us too. And you've seen it. In your church, in your work, wherever you go, on the streets, in a club, anywhere. There are certain segment of black people here that think they're better than you too. Because maybe they might have drive a better car, they got a bigger house, a higher paying job, or a big position. See? But to God, God is the equalizer. See? That's why my other minor in college was in religious studies. And this is another answer to your question. Jim Jones, in 1981, took over 900 Americans over the British Guiana.
Is it like the anniversary?
Just recently. It was the 40th anniversary. Most black people don't know that out of the 960 some people that went over 600 of them were African American. They went over and drank that Kool-Aid. I was taking some religious courses because I've got my license to preach in the Baptist church. I've just never been ordained. Because I've always, since I was born in the church, God's always had something for me to do. You know, God's got something for everybody to do. If you figure it out, you'll do it. And if you figure it out right, you'll produce a lot of good fruit. Because the Bible says you will know a tree by the fruit it's produced. So that's why I sleep good at night, you know, for the most part, because I know God used me to produce a lot of good fruit. It's not me producing it. It's God using me. Because I ain't nothing. See? But getting back to your question, the other part of this that I learned from that Jim Jones incident, they convened a conference of black ministers from all across this country. I was taking some courses at Vanderbilt Divinity School at the time, and that was our whole course to determine why. In 1981, with almost 700 black people, most of them Christians, raised in the black church, would follow a demented white man thousands of miles to another country to find God's heaven on earth. And so they came, and thousands of black pastors came from all across the country. The conference was in San Francisco. And I'll never forget, one of the pastors came back from the Divinity School. He went out to the conference. And so we couldn't wait for him to come back to figure out, you know, what did they decide? I mean, the question was, why did it happen? Why did these black people, who've been going to black churches most of their life, suddenly, all of a sudden, give up everything they had? Some of them gave them thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars that they had accumulated. They gave all of it to this white man and followed him over to the British Guiana. And he ended up making all of them, or convincing all of them to drink Kool-Aid and kill them. About the majority of them. Only a few of them got out. You know what the answer is? The answer is that the black church is alienating more young black people than it is bringing in. Because a lot of young black people are seeing that the black church is nothing but a place where you go and you get happy. You say, "Oh, thank you, Jesus." It's a catharsis type of situation. You go and you build up all this frustration from all of this racism that's around you every day. And back then, you know, black people routinely was being called niggers all their life. See, I grew up in a small town in Tennessee. It wasn't only a day that a load of white people didn't drive by and call me a nigger. Almost every day. See? And so what they surmise is that the black church has become nothing but a cathartic situation for black people. It's not feeding the black people, not teaching them how to fish so they can go feed themselves, not teaching them how to uplift themselves and think for themselves, but teaching them how to, you know, be happy and content with where they are, getting them all emotionally drawn, cleansed on a Sunday morning so they can go back and be filled with all this frustration Monday through Saturday, then they come back on Sunday morning, they get cleansed again. And they also determined that and this is still true to this day, first time I'd ever heard it, for black people between the ages of 17 and 24, it was a dramatic decrease in their affiliation with black churches. They did a study. They had 3 groups they studied: college graduates, a prison group, and just a group that just wasn't affiliated with college, hadn't been in no trouble. In all 3 groups, in the black community between the ages of 17 and 24, in all 3 of those groups, the church attendance in the black community went down to nearly nothing. And they surmised this. This was what they ended up, and why these black people follow this white man. The black church is failing our black community.
If you could say something to the listening audience as far as a wake-up call, and I say this with Miss Patricia Allen in mind, I say this with what you were talking about with the churches in mind. Those who are, and maybe you can't, maybe we can't for those who are stuck into a certain mentality, but those who are conscious and are able to start thinking for themselves, and those who are able to understand that there has to be something different because they feel it on the inside. What would you say to them as a wake-up call for them, and even maybe using Miss Patricia Allen as a wake-up call to say, I have to give because I've been feeling this way for a long time? What would you say to them?
I would say to them, just like Martin Luther King said in some sermons right before he died. You know, a lot of people will surmise that Malcolm and Martin were close to coming together on one accord before both of them were assassinated. I do believe that. And I would say to them that, just like Malcolm said and Martin, black people don't stick together. Black people do not support each other. And it's because of all of the hurt that's in us. See? But we're directing our hurt inward. We're killing, you know, when you see rioting, we're not going and tearing down the white man's stuff. We're standing right there in our community, tearing down our own communities, burning our own businesses. When Martin Luther King was assassinated, all the riots out there in LA, in Detroit, Philadelphia, Chicago. And you see it in Chicago, you see it in Ferguson, you see it in Baltimore. Over and over and over again. Black on black crime. We are killing each other. We have no sense of belonging to each other as a black community, and the black church is not doing its job in helping us have that sense of belonging. And we as a black people, that's the reason the slaves sang, "Steal the way to Jesus." Because all throughout our history, we look to Jesus to free us, for liberation. See? But Jesus and Martin Luther King and all the people that really know the Lord wants you to love yourself too. See? And if Martin Luther King was the first one I heard say that, if you don't have a healthy self-love, you can't love Jesus right. You can't love your wife right. You can't love your kids right. You can't love nobody right. Because when you have a healthy, not just a demented, egotistical self-love, but a healthy self-love, it makes you realize that, man, you ain't running down here. And without God, and without Jesus, you ain't nothing. You could have a house on 1,000 hills and run one of the biggest businesses in the world. Bill Cosby's running that right now. He was one of the most sought after, most known black entertainers that's ever been known. You see what's happening to them. See, I'm not condemning him. I'm not even making a judgment on him. But there's something wrong. Something. And man, I tell you, even if you got the Lord, even if you got Jesus in your heart, man, we're human. We're going to make a lot of mistakes, man. But I tell you what, God wants us to help each other. And that's why I'm helping Patricia. I don't care what nobody else says. And I don't care if nobody else contributes. We serve a God that's able. And I believe God is going to make a way for Patricia to be free, for her name to be clear, for people to, she'll have an opportunity at some point for people to talk to her and get to know her and see her. She will get her children back and she will get her life back. She will never get those 3 children back. And that pain that I've seen in her, she cries all day, every day. Man, I tell you what, when I lost my brother, you see the tears in me now. I couldn't even talk to him. For years, I couldn't even talk about it without crying. Because it hurt so much. And I felt so helpless. I wasn't doing that. I was taking, my brother was dying of multiple myeloma. I'd been with him for 2 days over at the cancer center, harvesting, sitting there all day watching him take his stem cells out of his, do a tube like dialysis, and harvest his cells. And the first night they got 5 million, needed to have 10.6 million. So they had to bring him back the second day. That's the day he died. We was there from 8 o'clock in the morning to when we left at 4 o'clock. He died at 4:40. And then they had to take take the stem cells and count them over at the Carter Blood Center, and they wouldn't give us the count back to 7:30 that night. Well, they called it 7:30 that night. They had gotten enough for him to have his transplant. He had been dead for 3 hours. Why? I don't know. See, so all these people that's condemning Patricia, they don't know. They don't know what happened that day. I know there's one thing we do know. There's 3 precious children that died that day. And their mother was not responsible for them dying. She would, just like me, I would die. I want to die. My mom would rather my brother be here. She would rather the children be here. She would die. And let them live. Just what God's plan. It was the only thing that makes sense for me.
What type of relationship did you have with your brother?
Oh, man, my brother was like a father to me. You know, my daddy used to beat my mother like a dog. My mother put up with it for 11 years. She left me when I was 11 years old. I was the baby boy. My daddy never told me nothing. Never heard my daddy tell me nothing. All my love, all my hugs came from my mom. So when she left like that, man, for years I had a secret hiding place. Until I got 3, well, 2 brothers left now, but I had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. And I guess I was grown away from them. So I told them every day after mama left, I'd go find my little secret place and I'd cry. And ask mama to come back. She came back after I got out of college. She got really sick. She died of cancer. But man, I tell you, that's, I remember that day like it was yesterday too. For a little 11-year-old boy, for their mother to just disappear. I only wanted to tell you they love you, hurt you. They're affecting Still dead. Stuff happens. Just gotta keep on living. It's like that line in the Shawshank Redemption. You either get busy living or get busy dying. You really don't have too many other choices.
If there was two things in this world that you could do to make the world a better place, what would those two things be?
One is I'd find a way to prevent women from being abused. I would open up some type of center, and I would make it known all across this country that any man that hits a woman, all that woman has to do is come to that center, and that man's going to be taken care of. I think it would save a lot here. It would save a lot of children and families from a lot of pain. And I think we can eliminate that. That would be the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is I think I would make it mandatory that every person in this country voted. You would have to, or you wouldn't be able to work. I would tie voting to something that's mandatory. Because God has given us, the Bible says the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Black people, we have been deceived by that pedagogy of the press and believing what this white man has told us, that our vote doesn't count, that our voice doesn't count. When you realize Dallas County, if the black people and the Hispanic people, just for example, woke up today and had to vote, you wouldn't hardly have no black people could ever be elected unless they were on our side. Because we're the majority. Out there in Irving right now, blacks and Hispanics and Asians, if they ever wake up and vote, there could not be a redneck white person ever elected to any position in Irving ever again. Can you imagine if you got compassionate people in office that look like you and care about you? What a wonderful country this could be. Donald Trump possibly being our president, dissing millions of our Hispanic brothers and sisters like he did, categorically. Ted Cruz, who if he could, he'd lock you in the jail. He would just lock up the alien. He'd lock you in the jail too. See, and if black people, Hispanic people, if we voted, we can change this world. And we can unlock these prison doors where you've got, like over in South Dallas, you got an epidemic going on right now. Anybody that lives in Dallas County knows it. Nobody in the black community is talking about it. Black women are running in these lesbian whores over because they don't have no men. I've had black women tell me that, well, there ain't no men over. All of our men are in prison. So then all these people, all these pastors, I've talked to some of them, they wondering why these black women are running around in these lesbian whores over in South Dallas. It's epidemic. Nobody's talking about it. If we voted, we'd put people in office that can do something about that. Number one, a lot of these guys wouldn't get a lot of these long sentences for selling an ounce of marijuana. It's crazy. That's why I'm glad about what Obama just did. First president in history to go and visit prisoners in federal prison. So there has to be some reformation of our prison system. It's one of the, Martin Luther King, that's why they killed Malcolm and Martin. They were going to, they were talking about the redistribution of the wealth here. See, if we voted, we can get that done. I'm a firm believer in reparations too. See, I got the papers to prove I'm due. See, but a lot of black people were using that as a crutch, like this might write my nose or something. Well, yeah, he does, but it's been 460 years, we ain't got nothing yet. So if that's what you wait on, you're gonna be sorely upset. Possibly your whole lifetime. I believe reparations are going to happen. I predict in the next 10 years, America, black people are going to raise up, and there's going to be so much racial strife in this country. Carl T. Roy wrote a book I think I would recommend to everybody too. It's The Coming Race War in America. See, Carl T. Roy was Uncle Tom a lot of his life, but God struck him with cancer. In the last couple of years of his life, God gave that man an epiphany. I don't know if he did. He said he had some type of experience with God. And God told him to write that book. And if you read that book, you will believe God gave him the impetus to read that book, because some of the things he wrote in that book ain't no way he could have knew that was going to happen. Because he's predicted. If you read that book, it's eerie.
And tell us the name of the book again.
The Upcoming Race War in America. And man, some of the things that's happening up here in Chicago, you see this past weekend, 11 of our young black brothers killed from Friday to Saturday, not Friday to Monday. Within a 24-hour period, 11 brothers took their own life. You know the number one cause of death in America right now, a black man between the ages of 18 and 35 is homicide. We killing each other. Pedagogy of the prayer. We've taken on the worst characteristics of right now.
Change the media, change the mind. Check us out, STI 740. Check us out, CPR, Community and Police Rebuilding. We're going to be at the Southport Center Mall, July 25th, where the youth are controlling their own media. The youth are hosting their own media. The youth are doing the reporting for their own media. You're going to see these youth inside the courtrooms. You're going to see these youth onto the streets. You're going to see these youth talk with the other youth about voting. You're going to see this. There's a youth movement that's going on.
Praise God.
Change the media, change the mind. Be here, July 25th. These youth will be having a dialogue with the officers. They're going to be sitting with these officers, talking to the officers about we have to rebuild the trust. They're going to be holding the officers accountable, just like the city holds us accountable. They're going to be holding the officers accountable. We're here every single month, but you're going to be seeing their show on 30.8 every Saturday at 12 o'clock p.m. You're going to see this story also, not just on the social media, but also on BPN TV. It's imperative that we wake up. It's imperative that we understand that there's a system in place. And in order to tear that system down, we have to unite. What better organization than when you have youth? Because adults, they have to listen to these youth. When these youth go inside of these courthouses, these youth bring their cameras, when these youth go outside the courthouses and they put it on social media, I don't think people realize the youth have organized in a way that I've ever seen before, and they've done it on social media, and they become powerful and they become strong. So why not pour that positive media so that these youth can express themselves in a positive manner instead of allowing negative media to destroy us? Regarding Patricia Allen, it's imperative that we come together and that we are a force to be reckoned with, but we can't do it without you. When you listen to this amazing story, I've met many people in my lifetime. I've only known this brother for about 2 weeks, and I can tell you this is the most powerful speech, the most powerful story, the most powerful message that I have heard. It inspired me. Not only have it inspired me, but it's going to inspire so many of you who will listen to this story. Use your